Well, hey friends, and welcome to Pause. For tonight's service, we'll offer a guided meditation on this ancient Hebrew word, ruach. And so the invitation is just to settle in where you are. And hopefully what will happen over our little bit of time together here is that some particular images will form in your mind. And the invitation there will be to stay with that for as long as you'd like and just stay open to the creative work of God. Ruach in the Hebrew it's one word that's been translated in our Bibles, in our language, into many words, but what it essentially means is spirit. It's the very first time in the scriptures that we encounter that we see the Spirit of God. Ruach in the Hebrew, also in our scriptures, has been translated into a handful of other words. It means wind and breath and air. Now, in Genesis 1:1 and 1:2, the very opening of the creation narrative, what we're told is that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and that the earth was formless and void. Which this is a very interesting, formless and void, tohu wabohu in the Hebrew, an unusual pairing of words. It's only used a handful of times in scriptures, but the imagery associated with this, tohu wabohu, is one of just absolute desolation. It's a barren landscape, the desert, somewhere where life cannot live, a completely uninhabitable, austere, frightening place. The earth was tohu wabohu, and the ruach, the Spirit of God, hovered over the surfaces of the deep waters. And so what the author offers us here is almost three images superimposed over each other. The first of this desert landscape, uninhabitable, barren, lifeless, frightening. The second of this deep, impenetrable ocean. Now, in the Hebrew imagination and invariably throughout their writings, both the desert and the ocean are used as literary devices, and what they represent is chaos and disorder and uncertainty. And the Ruach, the Spirit of God, hovered over the surfaces of the deep waters. And then superimposed over these images, the writer tells us that the Ruach of God, the Spirit of God, hovered. And as God speaks, His words move through the Spirit, and life springs forth. A lot of time has transpired between when these words were written and when we are experiencing them. And our understanding of the created world has obviously dramatically changed. And so in modern translations, this one word, ruach, has become at least four words. So spirit, wind, breath, air. But for the original writer, for these ancient Hebrews, this would have been inconceivable. For to them, Ruach pointed to this one indivisible God and His creative spirit, an extension of His own being, which breathes into each of us to animate us, to give us life, and also into every created thing. And the same Ruach that's here within, God's breath within, is also the air around us, permeating, saturating every aspect of creation. Do we sense how this dispels this notion, this feeling of separation from God, of searching for God? And we understand maybe a little bit why Paul so much later would write that it's in God we live and move and have our being, and that it's Christ whom I've discovered within me. This ruach, God's breath, breathing in us and through us. And as the rest of it, creation, in all its beauty and in all its variety, never stops changing. It just shifts. Think of it. Think of who you were 10 years ago versus who you are now. Think about the opinions of the people who are around you 10 years ago versus the opinions about who you were versus the opinions of the people who are around you now and who they believe you to be. Think about your own opinions of yourself, about what makes you happy and how these have changed and shifted and adapted over a lifetime. I think about the systems that we rely in and how they change and shake. It's kingdoms, they rise and fall, nations, kings, and all of them for a minute, for their moment in the sun, appear to us to be real and true and reliable. But it's all moving. It's this tohu wabohu. It's chaotic and unordered. But as we begin to recognize that here within me, though, is the very breath of God, that below it all, within it all, is this one unchanging, indivisible reality. That what brought it into being also anchors me in the deepest parts of who I am. Something beautiful here is that this is not just conceptual. This is not a concept. This is very naturally also a practice. Spirit is breath, is air. We say we breathe out breath and breathe in air. The Hebrews would say the Spirit within allows breath out and breath back in. It's all ruach. And so, maybe breathe with me for just a moment. We'll take 3 deep breaths, in and out. May the Spirit of God rest on your life, in your world. And may the creative nature of God spring forth new life. And peace be with you.